What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? Hi, I'm Brent Cassidy. Welcome to the Nightmare Success In and Out podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares and set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys I was in Leavenworth with and others who survived their own nightmare. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that'll help you knock down some of the prisons you built up in your own mind. All right, folks, Nightmare Success In and Out. We are back. Thank you for being here. You know, we talk about what happens when your worst fear becomes your reality. How do you adapt, survive? Well, I've got a guy here, Bobby Bostic, who, man, did he go through almost 3 decades, sentenced to 241 years in prison, told him he could have parole, an opportunity for parole at 112 years old. It's a fascinating story, and it's been covered by a lot of people, from the BBC, the New York Times. If you go on and Google Bobby Bostic, American writer, he's written 15 books. I'm looking at 7 of them right here that are on Google. Wrote those all while he was in prison. Just an incredible story of perseverance, tenacity. But I want to give you a little bit of background here. Just if you look him up on Wikipedia, this is what you're going to hear. This is what you're going to see and read. Bobby Bostic was born in 1979, an American writer who was sentenced to a term of 241 years. On December 12, 1995, Bostic, age 16, along with an 18-year-old, Donald Hudson, eventually they were charged with armed robbery, and Hudson was offered a plea deal and accepted 30 years in prison. On the advice of the family, Bostic declined the same offer and elected to go to trial. He was given a sentence of 241 years by Judge Evelyn Baker, making him eligible for parole when he was 112 years old. Bostic was serving the longest sentence in Missouri given to a juvenile for a non-homicide offense. Bostic's case attracted considerable media attention in later years. Due to changing laws regarding life sentences for minors and the severity of the sentence, Judge Baker later stated that she regretted giving Bostic the sentence and actively supported his unsuccessful appeal to the Supreme Court of the United States in 2018. This involves some big-name people. Ken Starr, who was the special counsel for Bill Clinton, Sally Yates, who was just in the news recently under the Donald Trump administration, and over 100 current and former judges, prosecutors, and law enforcement officers. In 2021, a new law passed allowing Bostic to apply for parole. His application was approved, and he was released on November 9th, 2022, and he has been on a ride since then. And he was just showing me like his business cards and stuff that he's created, and the guy is locked in. But before we get to that, and I want to get to all this and unpack this because I can't wait to get into it. I want to introduce our show sponsor, and I gotta tell you guys, I gotta give a shout out to Fritz Zagel, my good buddy. He's corrected me. I have been saying concierge wrong. I was saying concierge, and I thought even it sounded good the way I was saying it. I thought that was like the fancy French way. Obviously, Hickory Hills and Hickory Hills Junior High did not prepare me and educate me to spell, and I could probably spell it, but pronounce it properly. I'm going to say this right today on our podcast show. It's concierge, if anybody's wanting to know. So here we go. Auto Plaza Direct. Who likes spending a couple of weekends walking lots, looking for a car, then you spend 4 or 5 hours in the dealership to buy a car? This is kind of like going to the dentist. Well, there's a better way. Take away all the pain and hassle of getting a car. Auto Plaza Direct. They are your personal car concierge. Just tell them the car you want, what you can pay, and they will find that car for you. Negotiate your best price and deliver that car to you anywhere you are. They also offer you warranties and financing, full service. Go to autoplazadirect.com to get started with your personal car concierge, the new hassle-free way. The car buying experience you deserve. Auto Plaza Direct. Tell them Brent from Nightmare Success sent you. Thank you, Fritz Zagel, helping me out, helping a guy out. All right, Bobby Bostic, man, welcome in. I am so happy that you made the time to come here in studio. Man, what a ride you've been on.
Oh, yeah, it's been quite a journey.
So we were just talking before we got on here, just the little things in life. You know, you were talking about, just going and opening the refrigerator.
It's those simple things when they took away from you that you appreciate more than anything. So things that somebody else may complain about, I don't, because in every failure is an opportunity for success. Like many of us returning citizens that's doing positive things with our life, we know the pitfalls, but we also know that there's also upswings, like living a good life and just simply enjoying open ice box. It's like in prison, you don't have no choice. You can look at these 4, 5, 6 items on canteen for 27 years.
Yeah.
And that's what you eat. Now, when I open the ice box, it's like, what do I eat? What do I drink?
All the choices.
Yeah, I should drink some water, but now you got these different flavors here. You got
Hey, and I just put that water in front of you. That's yours.
Oh, okay, I appreciate that. You got all this different stuff. You got purified water. In prison, ain't nothing pure coming out of those zincs. The water, you got to boil it before you can drink it.
Well, and we were just talking about you're carrying 2 phones with you, and both of them are cool phones. You've got the iPhone 14, and you've got an Android. You're switching over from that to the iPhone 14. What in the world is that like? I mean, 1995, when you go in, I don't know. I know there were car phones.
Nah, it wasn't no cell phones.
Yeah, I don't think we were all walking around with those, were we?
Nah, we didn't have cell phones. I had never used a cell phone because in prison, you can get them illegally, but
right.
I never got one.
Put you in the hole for that. If they say that's conducting business if they nail you with it, yeah.
Yeah, I never had. In Missouri, you get a year in the hole for that. So I never had a cell phone, never touched one until I got out November 9th. 2022. I never used the internet because they didn't have the internet when I went to prison. So all these little simple things to me is a joyous occasion. I'm still learning the cell phone. 5 months later, I still don't know how to use it.
Bobby, I'm still learning the cell phone. I mean, there's the only people that know how to use cell phones are people that are like 25 years and younger. That they know everything that it does, along with the social media and everything else. You just start getting older and older and older, and you become that person who they look at and they say, yeah, they're just old. They don't know how to do the technology stuff. But the young people, they just grow up with it. They get it.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of being young, let's go back to young Bobby. Take us, kind of walk us back into your life growing up as a kid, your family, your neighborhood, everything that was going on with you back then.
I grew up in the Walnut Park area of St. Louis. We kind of grew up in extreme poverty, but to us, we didn't know that it was poverty because when everybody you only live by what you can compare yourself to. So when you got surroundings where a lot of people live in poverty, you can't compare to nothing else but that. And like we knew we was poor because as you read my book, the book Dear Mama. If you read that book, you will see that we lived in condemned houses, vacant houses that we would just take the boards down and move in. And we had ways of turning on the gas by digging up the ground and then messing with the pipes. We stole electricity from the wires. We got water from the next door neighbor and boiled it, cooked our food in it, and took baths in it. That's how poor we was. But to us, we had each other. And
what was each other? Was it mom, dad, siblings?
Oh, yeah. Mom, dad, well, not a dad, a stepdad. And the siblings, that's all. Sometimes we didn't have a stepdad because some of the choices of boyfriends she had, they would leave and it'd just be us, 4 and her. And we survived off welfare because she couldn't work and take care of us because we were so bad that she had to keep an eye on us. And we just lived off welfare and food stamps.
How'd you fit into the sibling hierarchy?
Yeah, in that hierarchy, I was a loner, right? And all siblings have sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
I was born in November of 1979. January of 1979. My brother was born in January of 1979. So we 9 months apart.
Wow.
So we fought 24 hours.
Almost like twins.
Yeah, but we fought constantly. And the older siblings, ironically, in that same household, they went to school, went to work, never sold drugs. Right now, they both successful homeowners. me and my little brother, growing up in that property, you had older guys in the neighborhood that sold drugs, stole cars.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I start off with basic things like truancy, staying out overnight,
Mm-hmm.
delinquent stuff. Standing loitering on the corners and getting locked up, going to juvenile for that overnight, and then that led to a path of breaking in cars, just stealing change or radios or CDs. Well, they ain't have CDs, but whatever we can steal out of cars.
Mm-hmm.
And then that led to, okay, here goes some drugs. $50, you can make $100 in an hour. And then that led to me selling drugs. And then I became
How old would you have been, Bobby, when you got into that?
12. I started
12 years old?
Yeah, crack cocaine.
And the older guys that you were kind of looking up to, the guys that were maybe the guys that everybody looked up to in the neighborhood, how old would those guys have been?
If I was 12, they ranged from 16 to 25.
Yeah.
But even right there in the ghetto, just ironically of when you think it's small, you'll have a guy with a $50,000 or $60,000 BMW.
Yeah.
And instead of him buying a house or buying this house he's renting, he want to look good with this car with all the $30,000 accessories. So he got a $19,000 car sitting in front of the house that's worth $20,000.
Yeah.
He's not even renting the house. I mean, he don't own the house, but
he's got the car.
Yeah. Only thing that mattered to us was having something because we didn't have nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the mentality of why you see guys bragging on things, or instead of them investing money, they want to look good or live beyond their means, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like today when you have people overspending on credit.
Yeah.
It was just like that back then, but it was in a different lane.
Yeah.
But what we was doing, we wasn't saving money. We was
just buying it.
Yeah.
Once you got it, you bought it.
Yeah, and then it was a literal war in the inner city with the Blood and Crip thing. Came to St. Louis in about 86.
Mm-hmm.
So in about 88, when I was like 9, right at 9 or 10, in 1988, I became a Blood because the neighborhood we was in was all Bloods. These are guys you've been hanging with.
Mm-hmm.
It's just guys from California. When they started moving down here, one of them may see one of our cousins, and he started get her pregnant and move into the house. But he got cocaine by the bundle. We can't get access to it like he can. Mm-hmm. And he a Blood or Crip, and he teaches his gang. He's like, man, this is where I'm from in California. So we started claiming various.
It's almost like opening up a franchise.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah. And we'll claim they gang, put our St. Louis spin on it, and then the guys around the corner, somebody else start claiming the opposite gang. Now, prior to this, we grew up with these guys. We played football with them, played court baseball. But when they became the opposite gang, it got serious, and the guys you started shooting at was guys that you actually knew.
Yeah.
Or if they was across town, we still went to skating rinks and
still saw them and knew them.
Yeah, but the gang thing became real serious.
Violent.
And then a fight lead to a shooting, and then a shooting lead to a death. And then it just spread all over St. Louis. Mm. And by us being Bloods, we wore red all the time, and we was outnumbered. It was for every 4 Crips, there was only 1 Blood. Mm. So wearing that color, you had a big target on your back. And we went out there every day, like, prepared to die, basically, because it got to that point. Because you have a guy at a club, he'd get into it about a female, and he started shooting at guys, and then dudes know where he from. So we out here just selling drugs. We don't know nothing about the fight he had last night.
Yeah.
And guys come shooting at us, and we're like, man, who was that? They're like, oh, man, it's the dudes from over there, man. He got into it with them last night. And it's like, okay, so now
coming from everywhere.
Yeah. And it's red. When you look down the street and see the red, it's like, there they go. So they start shooting. And it got to the point where we had to sell drugs out of the gangway. The gangway became our artery. Because if we in the streets, the police going to see us, and they going to harass us. If the Crips see us, they going to start shooting at us. Then it get to the point where Blood start getting into it with Blood. So now we got Crips shooting at us, Blood shooting at us.
Bloods on Bloods.
Yeah. So
wow. That sounds like a lot. And at the age you were, you're just a kid, 13, 14, 15. So the Hudson guy that you got wrapped up with, was he part of the Bloods and that whole thing that night that all happened? Or was that like a guy that you hung with?
He was a Crip.
He was a Crip.
Yeah, he was a Crip, but my sister and his sister had the same brother boyfriends.
Okay.
And I knew him prior. My auntie used to go with his mother too. I mean, my uncle used to be with his mother, so I knew him. So that's the only time back then you would see Crips and Bloods hang together.
When it got to be like family relationships.
Now though, it's not like that no more. They all hang together. But back then, those guys didn't hang together.
Yeah.
But me and him, the night of this crime, we wasn't even together that night. It was
Well, just walk us through that thing, because I mean, reading it, you feel like you get bits and pieces from one article and bits and pieces from another article. I know one thing that's consistent is that Hudson, who pled, said he was really the main instigator in the deal. You were kind of a bystander, definitely part of it, but definitely not the guy that was leading the charge in it. And then he obviously got a different. He chose to take his plea bargain, and you chose to go to trial. But can you kind of lead us through what happened that night?
What happened at night is, like I said, he stayed around the corner. Well, he didn't. His sister stayed around the corner, and he happened to be over her house. But that night, it was a night of at this time in 1995, in December, it was a drought in St. Louis. Nobody could find drugs. So when it comes to that, then we spending money every day, but we're not making money. So we'll start selling fake drugs. We'll cook up some baking soda and some residue and make it look like drugs. So the customers knew that we didn't have dope, and they knew we were selling fake dope, so they stopped buying. So this where the robbery aspect come in. I was the type of guy that sold drugs. I wasn't a robber. Mm-hmm. It's just when it was a drought, we had to do something to get money. So long story short, I'm from the north side of St. Louis, but I was living on the south side. On the south side is McCree area. It's called the dark side. A lot of these guys over there was killing each other. It was a notorious neighborhood. But we was hanging over there, and those guys allowed us to hang over there. But while we was over there, one of our homegirls, she the type of like to instigate stuff and talk crazy to dudes that she feel like that she can get that off on. One of the dudes smacked her and told her to go get us. And when she came in the house, said somebody smacked her, we like, okay, you always arguing with people, that's what happens. And she was like, yeah, but they told me they come and get y'all punks. So when she said that, we automatically
that set it on fire.
Yeah, we grabbed our guns and went around her, and they was like, man, look, man, we ain't got no problems with y'all. You know how she is. She was like running them off. The dude smacked her. We ain't say nothing about y'all, man. You know how she is, man. So we like, all right, man, yeah, y'all right. We cool. We ain't got no problems. So we going to put the guns up. And when I'm going to put the guns up, the dude I was with, it was two of us walked around. There's like 30 of these dudes I heard with guns. We walk around with two guns in our stupidity, because they could have killed us out there.
Yeah.
But they just, they knew what we was tripping off, and they was like, man, ain't nothing. So when I'm coming out to put the guns up, Donald coming out the store. I mean, I'm like, what you finna do? He's like, man, I just got some blunts. I'm finna go get high. I'm like, man, let's go get high. I'm like, let me put these guns up first, though. And the guy I was with walked up the steps. Me and Donald walked off. And soon we walked about, I'll say 8 houses down the street. The people that was giving charity, we didn't know what they was doing. They pulled up. And what they pulled up at is a dope set that if you don't live in this neighborhood or you wasn't coming to buy drugs, you didn't come over there. Mm-hmm. And that was just a rule of that type of street. Mm-hmm. But when we saw those people, it wasn't even a planned robbery. It was like, I looked at him, he looked at me, it was like, man, you see what, it was just
an impulse.
Yeah, instantaneous. Yeah. It just happened. I looked at him, he looked at me, and we both knew that we finna rob these people, just automatic. I ain't had to say let's rob them. It wasn't even no verbal agreement. It was just a look, like looked back and forth at them, looked at him, and he's like, oh, psh. And the guns came out, and there was 3 females getting out the car, and we approached them, and I approached them and said, give me what you got. And they was like, we don't have nothing. And I moved on to just left them alone. But there was 3 robberies, 3 attempted robberies, 3 armed criminal action. That's 6 charges just for pulling the gun and say, give me your possession. They said they don't have nothing. So there was 6 charges. And then one of the guys was one of their boyfriends. He came around the car, asked him what we was doing, and we like, man, it's a robbery. He's like, I don't have nothing. His girl was like, just give him the money, et cetera, et cetera. And it was a little back and forward. And that's the guy who got shot, grazed with the bullet, right? Fortunately, he wasn't seriously injured or nothing. And the other guy who was getting out the back of a truck, Donald Hudson, was talking to him and shot at the ground. That's another 4 charges: robbery, ACA, assault, ACA.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who got shot at, that's the one I was standing in front of. That was 4 more charges when he got grazed with the bullet: assault, ACA, robbery, ACA. That was 14 charges from that one incident. We walked around the corner, and then I went over to my girlfriend's house real quick, and she had a girlfriend over there with her, and she didn't want to deal with Hudson that I was with. So I'm like, man, let's go to the other side of town, because we hot over anyway. So when we was leaving out of the house, we seen another lady with a hood up with a bunch of stuff in her trunk. It was like, okay, now let's rob her. That we did say that was a plan part, like let's rob her and get the car and get away from her. Put her in the car, took her 8 blocks, took her jewelry off, and put out the car. Got caught in her car short time after that, and that's another robbery, armed criminal action, and kidnapping. There was 17 charges. When I got pulled over, I had some marijuana on me. That was another felony, so that was 18 felonies I had, right?
All in the course of that night.
Yeah, and that quick, unplanned, brief moment, all that happened. And then I was facing 18 felonies sitting in the workhouse in the old city jail.
How did you get arrested? Did you get arrested that night?
Yeah, in that car.
In that car.
We had took her car.
So you had carjacked that car,
and then
stolen that car, and they pulled you over in that car.
Yeah, you know how soon she called the police, told them the license plate. Soon we happened to be trying to get to the other side of town, and before we can get there, we crossed Delmore on Natural Bridge. You get into the inner city.
Yeah.
And as we was crossing, the police seen that they already had a BOLA out on the car. Pulled us over, went on a high-speed chase, and got caught like 8 blocks after the high-speed chase.
What were you thinking, Bobby? Because you've been in and out of trouble, but this probably felt different, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was different because the certification situation. When I went to juvenile, the same charges I got arrested for, if I was 12 or something, I'd have got 7 or 8 months at Hogan Street.
Right.
But now each charge carried 5 to life. And it's like, but at the time.
You're 16 years old when that happened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, at the time, I didn't ever, the magnitude of what it was didn't set in. Everybody else it did, because it was on the news, and what the people was doing, they was out giving charity. And it's like,
read that. Yeah, and you guys didn't know that. You just thought they were in the neighborhood and pulled up and were moving stuff in and out or whatever.
Oh yeah, we didn't know, but that's the sad part about these type of situations. When you do things, they don't take time to think, because a grown man would at least been like, who is these people? What are they doing? Or something. A youth, he just going to impulsively act, and these are the consequences. Like,
that's what happens, right? Because that's probably why it also made a big part of the news was they were charity people.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It was a bad situation. Fortunately, nobody got hurt. Seriously injured.
Yeah.
Because it could have happened. But when I was in the Justice Center in the workhouse, I never realized the seriousness of what I was facing, because down there it's all like everybody getting high. We try to incorporate the streets inside the jail.
Inside the jail, yeah.
Yeah, we keep everything we did in the street. We gambled, we shot dice.
Yeah.
We didn't have guns, but we picked up knives. We did everything we did on the street, music. It was an illusion we was creating. Like, we wasn't facing this serious time in prison. So every day I got high, smoked weed, and then when I did stress off my case, people were like, look, man, you the youngest down here. We all got murdered. Such and such left. He only got 10 years for that. He got 15, man. Them people ain't going to do nothing to you, man. You got some robberies. You was a juvenile. Ain't no big deal here. Get high. And that's what I did. Like, man, ain't no big deal.
I think it's interesting because when you read about your story, one of the things that comes across is that when you go through your case and you go to trial, the judge says that she, at the time, believed that you weren't feeling regret, but she then realized, as she talks later, is that you were just trying to be a tough 16-year-old put on a brave face because that's what you do in the hood. And I think that's, when you put all that in, you were probably scared, but you were wanting to think, this is how I act. This is what I do when I'm in a situation in the streets, and, I can't show my fear. But when you get brought in and they're telling you, hey, this is 18 charges and, you're looking at a lot of time, did you have the opportunity to get an attorney that was your attorney, or did you have a public defender, or how did all that work for you?
Oh, yeah, I had a public defender. The way that go too is at the time, a lot of public defenders was just being trained. So you got a new
somebody new on the job.
Yeah, that's never been a trial before. So my trial was his first trial, right? And I was guilty, right? I wasn't going to trial because I thought I was going to be acquitted. I knew I was going to be found guilty.
Yeah.
But in my young mind, I'm thinking that first of all, the guys in prison was like, man, it's no big deal, man. You got some robberies. They're going to give you 10 years.
Yeah.
Get high, man. Quit stressing.
Mm-hmm.
You making us stressed out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I wasn't realizing the magnitude of what I was facing until I'm sitting in the courtroom. My demeanor is when you in a war in the streets, right? When you going in a constant battlefield, your demeanor hardens, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't looking like a typical 16-year-old. I'd been through different type of things in the street, so my demeanor kind of looked rough.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had braids, but I had an afro, out, real puffed out. And I'm sitting in the courtroom, the jury looking at me like, and they looking at the victims. The victims, to me, in the streets, a robbery is a robbery. People get robbed all the time. I've been robbed 3 or 4 times at gunpoint at 14, 15. So in my mind, it wasn't no trauma to me because that's the world I come from. But the victims, they don't come from that world. So as they on the stand talking about what they went through, the jury looking at me, and I'm sitting here with this hard demeanor. That's probably what made them say 30 and 30 because it looked like I didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how it is when I go to juvenile detention now and talk to those little kids, and I see the hardness on their face.
Yeah.
And I can imagine if they go to trial, how the jury gonna look at them. It's like, you actually don't care, do you?
Yeah.
Because we do care. We just can't
express it the way you want to.
Yeah, and you misunderstood.
Yeah, and you're not used to that because you're more or less taught that you have a certain look, and you got your street face on that shows no fear.
Yeah, you gonna have that on in the courtroom, looking at the jury. And they looking at me like, do you hear what these people said you did? Do you even care? And I do care. It's hurting me on the inside what these people went through, but I can't. There's no way I can express that. Like
Bobby, what? So you go through this trial, and you got all these witnesses and things that happen, and the whole experience, I'm sure, is not. It's awful. Mm-hmm. When you stand there, and it comes back, jury comes in, they say you're guilty, and then there's sentencing. I can't even. I just have to ask you, like, what went through your mind on? Because you were thinking 10 years, maybe.
At the worst.
At the worst.
Yeah.
So when you hear 241 years run consecutively, and the possibility of parole when you're 112, which is good luck with that.
It was I was numb. Like I couldn't believe it. Like first when they said guilty on all 18 counts,
yeah,
I'm like, man, I know I'm facing a lot of time, but they give you a 30-day period between
sentencing or the verdict to sentencing, right?
Yeah, so them doing them 30 days, it was the same way.
Mm-hmm.
The lawyer, the public defender, especially the inmates, like, man, they ain't quit stressing, man. People finna give you 10 years at the worst, man. You'll be right out, man. You already got a year in, you probably do like 7, man, and then you get out, man. Ain't no big deal.
And you're communicating with your mom and siblings and stuff too?
We just
hoping for the best.
Yeah, we come from a world of poverty. We couldn't afford an attorney on no level.
Yeah. So
we just, there's nothing we can do. So I thought it was going to be 10 or 15 or something, but the day of sentencing, it was like a 3-page thing where she just told me I was hard-headed. I didn't listen. Let this be a lesson for other young people. She said, I'm going to make you as an example for other young people. to listen to your parents and us young people at the time. Juvenile crime was at an all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
This was the super predator era.
And I mean, this is a black female judge who's, I think at that time, is pretty new in the world of being a judge. And I don't know that. I don't know that she was new being a judge, but I know that her views changed over time. So I don't know when. I think she retired like in 2008. Yeah.
At the time, she had prior to me, she was new as an adult judge. She had been a juvenile judge.
So she had experience in the juvenile court, which maybe not might have been a good thing.
No, because I had appeared in front of her twice as a juvenile.
Yeah.
And so she
already knew of you.
Yeah, my family name, because we stayed in trouble. So it was like this same guy now he in front of me. Mm-hmm. And she was known for giving good deals out, though. Mm-hmm. But it's some people she didn't, like me. And she was the first black judge in the state of Missouri.
Right.
82, I think she was appointed by Governor 82. That was Governor. He was a Republican. I forgot his name, but
Ashcroft?
No, it was the one before him.
Oh man,
I forgot his name, but whoever was governor 82, he appointed her as the first black circuit judge in the state of Missouri. So she had been around a long time. She was assistant attorney general in Jeff City in the 70s. So she had been in this arena a long time. And for me, I guess she was like, this guy don't care. And because maybe my demeanor appeared that way, but I did care, but on the outside, it didn't show. And then, like as she said, she saw my family try to get me to plead guilty, and I didn't. Mm-hmm. And I guess she felt there was no hope, so
gave up on you.
Yeah,
and gave you a sentence as if she had given up on you.
Yeah, her last ending words was, "You made your choice. You will live with your choice, and you will die with your choice." Because Bobby Bostic, you will die in the Department of Corrections.
Man. And
before I can say something, she said, "Do you understand that?" And before I can say something again, she said, "Well, you don't go for parole until the year of 2035. She said, "Nobody in this courtroom will be alive in the year of 2235. Because back then, you got to do 85% of your sentence.
Yeah.
So I'd have had to do like 220-some years of that 30. Now, what happened on the 112 thing is that at first I couldn't go for parole until I was 212. When Graham versus Florida came out, the case in 2012, the U.S. Supreme Court said if a juvenile haven't killed anybody, he can't have a life sentence, right?
Mm-hmm.
All other states start saying, okay, anything over 30 or 40 years equals life without for a juvenile. Missouri said that no, it doesn't equal life without. They said you don't have life without. You got 241 years, which is not life without.
Right.
Then they slashed, for parole purposes, they slashed 100 years off. First, I couldn't go up till I was 212. When that case came out, I filed something in court saying that
go to 112.
Yeah, I said it applied.
Knocked 100 years off.
Yeah, they said, okay, well,
now you got to live to be 112 to have the possibility of parole.
And and they like, well, legal violence is, who knows? He may live to be 112.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was other states was moving towards that back since 2010. So it took 12 years from the Graham ruling for me to get the relief that Graham said I should get.
So let's go back into were you 18 at the time that the sentencing came down? Because 16 is when your crime happened, but were you 18 at the time that you went in?
I was 17 when I went to trial, and my birthday had happened right then and there, and then I turned 18.
Okay, so you're an 18-year-old kid that would normally be in high school, graduating, and instead you're walking into, I'm sure you're not walking into one of the low prisons, you're walking into a high-security prison. How do you start navigating that world as an 18-year-old?
Well, it's hard because, as you said, now I got sentenced. I got found guilty on a Friday. Mm-hmm. I got sentenced like on a Monday, the next month. But the Friday I called was prom and all that. When I called home, so all my other high school peers was going to their prom that night. Mm-hmm. And, going to people looking at what college they going to and all this. called home. That Monday I was being shipped to prison. I got sentenced on a Friday, and they ship you out the next week on the first bus. So I was numb. I mean, I don't even know how I walked. Like
I don't either.
I felt like lead was on my foot. Yeah, that's how difficult that whole process was. You cry till you can't cry no more. Because no matter how tough you is, when the judge tell you you're gonna die in prison,
when you're gonna die in prison, that's a lot to deal with. That's a dark path.
Yeah, you're gonna cry. You might not boo hoo. You might silently cry, but you're gonna cry. And I cried. But in that cell though, I was trying to figure out, like, man, at 16, your whole life gone. How did you? What happened? And that's when it made me reflect back on my life. But thinking about it, it was those harsh childhood experiences that probably going through all that made me hard enough to endure prison or withstand, the hardship, because I had already been poor. I had already been through poverty and faced unthinkable things as a child. So knowing as an adult, it was a whole different world because prison was violent. 80%, I'm not gonna say 80%, but 60% of guys, you had sexual predators. 60%. That was the makeup of a prison. Then it's like if the makeup now is gangs or something. Back then it was like homosexuality, because you had 90%. I'm saying 95% of the prison wasn't going home, because to be at a maximum security prison, you had to have 30 years or more. So when you got 30 or 40 or 50 years or more, an argument easy escalate into a stabbing. That's how you handle problems back then.
Just violence.
Yeah, because the way the predators was, some predators wasn't homosexual. They wasn't trying to rape people. They was just predators. Like if you fight this dude and you don't fight him like you trying to hurt him or you kind of show a sign of weakness, then them guys first they're gonna come and steal all your stuff or take it from you. And then if the homosexuals see them take it from you, you don't put up a fight. Then dudes they just want the material wealth.
Right.
But then you got the other predators, the sexual predators. They saw that, okay, he didn't fight them back. Now I'm gonna go try to rape him. And that was the law of the land back then. They'll read newspaper articles. They knew who was coming. They were like, oh, we got this little young dude coming up here.
Yeah. And yours was a big case. It got covered.
Yeah, and they like, they'll bet. Like, I got him. He's like, no, I bet you can't get him. No, I'm trying to get him. Man, no, let's see you get him first. And then they'll go to war about another dude.
Yeah.
They'll straight stab each other about him trying to get somebody he's trying to get. Fortunately for me, I didn't have those problems, man. When I walked in prison, those guys, every Tuesday and Thursday, the new guys, the new arrivals pulled up. So prison, it's not a fake scene. In Shawshank Redemption, you saw the bus pull up.
Everybody looking at everybody.
Yeah, everybody pull up and like, who coming?
Yeah.
That's actually what they do in prison.
Yeah.
Especially when I went in the 90s, right? They would wait on the bus, but it'd be the same type of best they had in that movie. Like, man, he's going to break. I'm going to get him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like the movie, though, because these guys will stab each other about their new arrival, who going to get them first. But when I got off the bus, my old cellie, unfortunately for him, 2 or 3 weeks later, he walking around with makeup on and lipstick because they turned him out, right? It was something about my demeanor or something that then no guy tried to pass me no note or nothing, because I went in there with my mind made up. I got nothing to lose. So if
you're doing life.
Yeah, you look at me wrong, I'm trying to kill you, because you're gonna try to kill me. Because back then, when you fight, even in a fist fight, when you go in those cells, those guys wasn't just fighting you a regular fight. It's like all this anger coming out on you.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, it was about a basketball game, but you see death in his eyes. It's like, if I don't fight this guy with the same type of aggression he got, I'm gonna get killed in this cell.
Exactly.
Because if you fall, some dude's gonna keep stumping you until maybe somebody come and get him off you, or because when y'all locked down in that cell, everybody got to keep moving on, and can't nobody keep looking in the cell because the guards will see y'all looking. So when y'all fighting in there, it's just you and him, and hopefully one of y'all come out on the winning end. But that's how dangerous it was. And then you don't know if this guy got a knife or nothing. It was just a gladiator school, and I lived through that school because of I had to survive.
Well, you not only just lived through it for a week or a month or a year, you lived through it for 27 years. That's almost 3 decades. And I'm curious, like, you at some point, and I can't, that's why I'm interested to talk to you about your time in prison, because it doesn't, things I've read and things that, you talk a little bit about that. What changed in your world where you went like really into reading and poetry and writing, and what was going on? How did that all come about?
Yeah, books are always there in prison. Some guys read just to pass time, right? But when I went to prison, I didn't read. I stayed high all day, ran the yard, got in gang rides, and that's how we in prison. When you got a lot, when dudes had all that time, they were never going home.
Mm-hmm.
If it's no violence going on, it's get bored.
Yeah,
Dudes
bored with
like,
their time.
Man, it's dead around here, man.
Something.
We got to kick something off, man.
Yeah,
and they'll just agitate something to keep the excitement going.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get locked down, and then we get back out. It seems exciting again because we've been locked down.
Yeah,
and it's just a complete madness, right? And I was like looking around, like, man, this can't be it, man. It got to be more to life than this, right?
How long do you think you'd been in there when you started thinking that?
I mean, in the back of my mind, I thought that when I first went in, but now I'm in somebody else's world.
Yeah,
this is their world, and their world is how you handle things is violence,
Mm-hmm.
right? You had the law clerks, you had them guys, they had their own little world.
right.
They was highly respected. You had the religious guys over here, and I looked at them as some foreign. I mean, looking
Mm-hmm.
at them like I ain't finna be with no religion. I ain't finna never do that type of stuff. And this law stuff is like, how can I know law? I ain't even graduated.
Right.
Middle school. I'm barely.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
So it's no way. So anyway, I'm finding my way daily. I'm getting high every day. This is how I get away. Marijuana.
Mm-hmm. Your escape.
Eventually, though, that stopped working.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, maybe it was dude that had no good weed. Let me go get it from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, it just stopped working. I couldn't get high on weed no more. And that's when the books came. I'm reading everything, philosophy, science, any discipline out there. I'm reading it constantly, day and night, right? But by that time, I was established myself in prison. Because one thing about prison, they respect two things more than anything: violence and knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guy with knowledge.
Such a good point. That is exactly true.
Oh yeah,
Violence and knowledge.
The guy with knowledge, he needed to file a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to the hole, you need him to file your divorce papers. You need him to
file a motion or something. Yep.
Yeah, or to just help you read. Some guys don't know how to read. Every guy that's
teach him a business plan or whatever those things are. Yeah.
Yeah, it took discipline for him to get that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And prison is based around discipline.
Right.
Everything is structured around discipline. And those guys are the most disciplined guys there is, especially the religious converts, the guys that pray 5 times a day, the guys that sincere with their religion. They more respected too because it takes a lot of discipline to get to that level of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So even the violent guys respect those type of guys, right? And I saw that, and I was like, well, this violence, I can do that, but that's not these guys over here got this knowledge. At least they trying to go home.
Mm-hmm.
At least they trying to find themselves. So I gravitated towards them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But by me being a natural loner, I was on my own. I didn't follow up under nobody. I just read books, and when I read, it gave me a natural high, man. I was really, literally on an intellectual intoxication. I was high on a whole different plane, and I enjoyed that high. So I read books to stay in this.
And that high intoxication.
Yeah, but it was a hole there because I wasn't going home.
Right.
So I'm like, man, it's something. It got to be bigger than this, man, because I'm finna lose it or I ain't gonna lose it.
Mm-hmm.
At this time, I'm reading books, and I read spiritual books.
Mm-hmm.
And Islam was our Islam is a pop religion in prison,
Mm-hmm.
but for us it wasn't. We looking at them dudes like, man, we don't want to hear that, man. Don't come over here. We ain't trying to hear nothing about no religion. So we stayed away from them guys basically. But by me reading books, I had to find God because I couldn't do it on my own, man. I needed something bigger than me, and that was faith, right? Because I wasn't going home. They denied my last appeal. In the process, my mother, she was 42 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They diagnosed her with cancer in June. In September. That's how. And then she died 2 or 3 months later, because by the time they diagnosed her, she was already full blown with cancer. She had lung cancer and breast cancer. So by her dying at that young age,
I can't imagine that happening to you while you were in.
Yeah, man. I was 21. She was 42, and it was just once she gone, what is to hold on to?
Yeah.
She was everything.
Yeah.
So, but at the time, that's when I found God. At the exact same time that she passed, is when I found God. And had I not did that, then I'd have lost it. I'd have went crazy. I wouldn't have made it. But at the time, I found a spiritual anchor, and that led me through that process. So when she died, I just wanted to hold on to her, and I read all her letters daily. I was like, man, I got to write this story, man. I want the world to know who she was, and to use this as a lesson to tell kids to listen to their mother. Don't take their mothers through what I took my mother through. So I wrote the book called Dear Mama. That was my first book. And then after I wrote that book.
When you wrote the book, I know one of the things that talks about that's one thing you wanted to take with you when you were released. Did you type on that typewriter these books?
Yeah, that typewriter. It was also, that was my tool to try to get out of prison. I had to type letters.
Yeah.
I typed all my legal motions on that typewriter. I had to buy it. That was the best investment in prison. That's the only thing I took home when I left. 20 years after I bought it. 22 years after I bought it. I bought the typewriter in 2000. And that was
put it to work.
Yeah, I put it to work. I typed my books on it. It took a lot of typing. I would wake up at 7 in the morning and type all the way to 8 at night.
So I'm interested though, what happened? Like, you start reading, you get into this, you find your spiritual side. You decide to write a book about your mom, which is, I can't wait to read it. But and the other cool thing about your books is you've got artwork that is from guys that or a guy in prison, your cover work, which is really cool. But did you just decide, hey, Bobby, I'm going to write a book? Oh,
no, that was the first one. When she passed,
You started writing?
Yeah, I had already read hundreds of books in it, right? And I'm like, man, you can write, you got a story to tell too. Yeah. Write her story first.
Yeah.
But it's also a story to kids and mothers. Like, even though we don't show y'all, we do understand. We just being rebellious. So it's a two-sided book. And then the next book was A Generation Misunderstood. I had read a lot of sociology type of books, and I was like, people always don't understand kids. Why kids are violent? Why kids are doing what they're doing? And I'm like, I got to write about that. So I wrote that book, A Generation Misunderstood, Generation X, just telling people how teens end up involving themselves in drugs and guns.
What's so cool about you writing those books is you're a great voice because you lived it.
Oh yeah, and,
you didn't just read about it and think, hey, that would be a good topic to talk about. You actually experienced it in real time, and you were writing that while you were in prison. But to me, that's like some of the best things that can happen is that somebody who experiences a trauma like you have and a crisis like you have, and you have a voice that you understand that can affect other people, and you go out and talk to those kids and tell them, listen, hey, you don't look like that. You can't put that face on. You gotta be more real. You gotta be empathetic. All those different things. That means so much more coming from Bobby than some guy that showed up that's got a master's degree that thinks he's, understood, how to figure everybody out.
Yeah, because we automatically rebelled against those people, including our own attorneys.
Sure.
Right? It's the number one thing is like, you never been through what I've been through, or you never felt this type of thing. But now I know you ain't got to go through nothing to know or care from something, right? But back then I didn't. In our young mind, it's just like when I talk to those little dudes right now today, I go to the juvenile detention center every Thursday. I teach writing workshops. When they get out, I take them to job interviews. I mentor them when they get out and while they're in juvenile. And I'm looking at some of them that's got first degree, second degree murder, and I'm looking at them. I'm like, man, you really don't realize
what you're going to be doing.
No, what you facing, the time you face.
Yeah.
You talking about what you finna get out and do. It's like, he talking like, oh, man, when I get out next month, or, man, they got you almost on camera doing this murder. How you think you finna get out? But in our young mind, we don't even realize
the magnitude of
it. But at that age, when I had lost her, and I was doing all that reading, I wanted to just put those other books down in writing form.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to ASIG a lot. I went to solitary confinement a lot because I was rebellious.
Yeah.
And while I was down, I would force
You'd
myself
write
to
while you were in solitary.
Yeah, 10 poems a day.
Yeah.
So I got 9 books of poems and 6 nonfiction books. And I just kept writing over the years.
That's a lot, Bobby.
Oh yeah,
that's a lot. It's a lot of writing, man.
Oh yeah, I just wanted that time to be meaningful.
But I guess that became your escape, and because everybody's got to have, everybody talks about a hustle in prison or how do you get by in prison, but you actually need to find a way that you can do your time in prison. Some guys get into their prison jobs. There's all kinds of different ways, but that sounds like that's how you did your time. You once you got to that part of your journey, that's how you did your time.
Oh yeah, it was constantly reading and writing. Right, just to me, I didn't watch TV. Not that I was averse to TV. It's just I got 10 books I got to read.
You're busy.
Yeah,
you're busy writing. Well, how did it come about that? And I guess the question I guess I should ask is, did you start feeling like that something was shifting in the world on the law and the courts, that you might have a shot?
As I said, in 2010, the U.S. Supreme Court said that if you was under 18 and you didn't kill nobody, you shouldn't have a life sentence. But as soon as I found out and filed that, Missouri said it don't apply. So it killed a lot of dudes' hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me though, I just always had hope. Like had I not had hope, I was gonna change one way or the other. Probably it could have been for the worse or the better. But once I changed for the better, I had hope, like something gonna give one day. Just like
how did you and the judge come to play to get to back in touch with each other?
Oh, that was when what happened was when the U.S. Supreme Court had accepted another case in 2016,
mm-hmm.
Miller versus Alabama, and that made the press look at all the research, all the juveniles
mm-hmm.
who had life without. And then somehow my name came up. It's like, okay, this guy got 241 years.
Mm-hmm.
He got more time than all the other juveniles, because the first-degree murder guys, even the guys who got premeditated murder, who was kids, they passed the law, allowed them to go for parole after
30 years or something. 25 years.
And they was like, well, what about this other guy who don't even have a murder? They was like, well, he's stuck.
He falls into the gap of no return. Yeah.
And then they did the research, like he got more time than all the other juveniles in the state. He didn't even kill nobody. And then it went national. And then it went
mm-hmm.
international, and the press, local, national, and
international, right?
Contacting Evelyn Baker.
Well, the BBC got involved, which was that did that light the fire for a lot of the rest? Because I know that I'm trying to remember the timeline between the BBC, the Supreme Court, those different things that were going on. Your case or your name kept rising to the top of what was going on, and then Missouri got somewhat the heat. But I thought it was.
It wasn't that easy.
But I thought that there was something interesting that happened, because the first law that they were trying to pass that didn't make it to, but then you didn't know that I think an amendment had been attached and that passed. And I think you were confused that whole thing didn't happen, and then you found out later that you had the opportunity to be paroled. Is that right?
Oh, that's correct. That's correct. The first time, the fire died. Then, like you said, the second time, when the fire took off,
yeah,
that was in 2018, though.
Right.
And it took 4 years of advocacy.
Yeah.
When the judge came back, my lawyers and her connected, and she started coming to see me and said that she made a mistake.
How wild was that? Because I mean, the other part of this story is that she's on the other side of that fence when you get released, and you hug her, who's put you in prison for that 241-year sentence. What was it like communicating with her on a one-on-one basis once you guys connected, that she's on your side advocating for your release?
Oh yeah, never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that she would come back. I never thought I would hear from her again, period. Because she meant what she said when she told me I would die in prison. That was a blessing. It was like another numb feeling when I found out that she came back and she had went to to the press with it, like I made
Right.
a mistake, et cetera, and that never happens in the criminal justice system that much. So that was a profound experience. And right now today,
It's almost like a movie, Bobby, that, you've got this judge that has experienced you 2 or 3 times and then says, I've given up on him. I'm done with him. I'm putting him in forever. I'm going to put him in a sentence that no one can get him out of. And then she goes through this metamorphosis of reading, understanding, and learning that the brain develops differently for somebody who's teenagers to whatever age, of 22, 23, whatever that is, how it matures. And then she becomes an advocate for you. And then now you guys at some point in the, 2000, whatever that is, and the teens start locking arms and trying to fight what had been put in place, which I just think that's fascinating.
Oh, yeah, it's a blessing. It's a blessing because when I was trying to get myself out of prison, I didn't ever known that a law would have to be passed to get me out of prison. So all that work, that's for anybody who's listening, man. Hard work, you don't never see the results immediately, but that's, how they're saying that hard work pays off. It's a true saying because we just talking about a living testimony of a guy who hard work paid off because there was a lot of work behind the scenes. I wrote hundreds of letters every week to different organizations, state representatives, churches. Every week I did this.
I don't want to go away from that either because I don't want to slide over that because one of the things that you read about, you wrote letters to everybody and you never, because, there's so many no's that happen in that sequence of things and you just kept with it, even to the point when you got into that reading, you wanted to fill the prison up with that type of knowledge and experience and intoxication that you were having, and you connected with the libraries and they started, it's almost like the movie with Shawshank. You built a library from the library and they're still advocating for you.
Oh yeah, that's the power of reading, man. I actually wrote the library before I had any books published, and I told them that when I get out I want to do book signings. I ain't have no books out at that time. My books was wrote, they wasn't published.
Yeah, I love that.
And the passion of that letter made the director of the library try to reach out to the DOC to get a library program started, and she got rebuffed. But what she did was went to Clayton, the county jail in St. Louis. And she started a GED program. They giving library cards when they get out, housing assistance. She was able to start all this, and she said it all started with a letter from me, right?
Yeah.
So you can never know the power of words.
Never know the power. And the fact that you just kept writing letters. And 27 years is a long time to live in an environment where you have to look over your shoulder every day, every minute that something might occur. Did you get used to the rhythm and flow of this? And I'm sure that you became, I can just tell by the way that you handle yourself, a respected person in that environment. Was it just you created your own little world in there? I'm typing, I'm reading, I've got my car of people that I hang with, and you just did decade after decade of that type of world.
I had to, because in prison I grew my shark teeth, not to be a predator, but to bite if the sharks bit or to bite back, right? Mm-hmm. You got to in prison. And I hadn't been through I had hundreds of fights and been involved in all type of violence. Whatever it was in prison, I did it. I was involved in all type of violence. The violence prison can be, I was involved in all that. And guys knew who I was. And, so it was like, dude over there reading and writing, he always typing, man.
Mm-hmm. Don't bother him.
Yeah, because if you do, then
he might do something to you.
Leave dude alone. He crazy, man.
Don't interrupt him when he's typing.
Yeah, dude want to read all day.
Right.
And my cellie, I was a bored cellie to some dudes like, man, I'm trying to get high. Dude want to read all day.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? But to them, that was like, all right. But then over the years, when those results came, those same guys would come back like, hey, man, you remember that book you told me about 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Man, they finna let you out. I can't believe it. With tears in their eyes. They was, man.
Really felt for you.
Yeah, people think that people hate in prison. Guys was literally,
sure.
They watched me grow up in there.
Yeah.
So when that bill passed, I didn't even know about the amendment because I didn't think it was going to pass. Right. Literally, because laws never pass in Missouri to let violent offenders out.
Right.
They may do something for a non-violent offender. And your age, that's why I tell kids, your age can be used against you,
Right.
not necessarily for you. So
how did you get notified that passed?
I got they started letting us get emails on our tablets. They
Yeah.
gave us tablets we can get emails, but not access to the internet, but a closed circuit email, right?
Which, by the way, Bobby, this particular podcast goes into 275 prisons now, and
that's
they'll
good.
be able to hear your voice in there.
Oh, that's good. They gave
on
us
those tablets.
Yeah, man, and they gave us all hope though. I got the email and said the amendment passed. And I read the amendment, like, man, this amendment been floating around for months and it never went nowhere. And at the end of the session, that never happened.
Right.
This happened at the end of the session.
Very end of the session.
I'm like, man. And then they like, oh, they got 2 or 3 days. And then it was a lot of back and forth, take this part out,
yeah,
put that part in. And it actually got there. And, man, gave us all hope because we all seen. Because I'm of them, we seen this guy fighting. We seen them deny everything, but he kept going. And now, not only do he got a chance to get out, it's so many other young
It's
dudes.
inspiring. You opened up a door for so many people.
Oh, yeah, they changed the law.
Yeah, no, it's huge. Tell me, Bobby, what 27 years, I was reading the thing. You didn't believe it until it said released on your cell. I know you'd packed up everything, but that moment didn't feel right and that it was real until you saw released on your cell. Walking out of prison, walk us out there with you.
First of all, that morning, as you saying, I couldn't sleep. I stayed up. I probably slept an hour if that. But just seeing the letters on the board.
Yeah.
They put cell moves. Everybody got to go look at it. They got cell moves on the thing every morning. And where my cell was at, where I was at, it said released. I'm like, man, it was
That's
music.
real.
It was like music notes, just reading those words like release. I just went and sat down at the table, and everybody came in there and saying their goodbyes and man, you gone, man, you made it. And
like you said, you've grown up with them.
Oh yeah, I had been there literally all.
I mean,
years.
you would have been 40 when you got released?
43.
43 years old. Went in at 18.
Yep. Some of them guys was there when I came, and they saw me walk out that day. It was like man, you getting out. And then not only that, all these other guys got out days behind
because of you.
Yeah, and it was like that's a blessing. Now, us other lifers, we got to do what we finna get out too, because we finna work to get there. It becomes an inspiration thing, right? Because if he did it, I can do it. Now, we ain't reading about a guy in another state. We just seen this in Missouri because in Missouri, nothing ever was happening like that. And it's like, it'll make guys just want to give up. But now we just seen it with our own eyes. Let's keep fighting to get out.
Yeah, hope.
And when I got that last year, some people was like, man, why would they give you a year and they letting you out? But I said, man, I'm going to use this last year as a year of service. I got my date. Let me help these other dudes get their dates. Mm-hmm. So I started
that was interesting too. I thought that was, you got that parole, but it took a whole year for you to get out once why did that take so long?
Because they said that since I wasn't ever getting out at first, I needed to take classes and accumulate to the fact that I was getting out.
Oh, okay.
It's like, this guy would never get out.
All the reentry stuff.
Yeah, let's let him go through all this stuff to get himself ready. Family,
how strange that would have been.
I was ready to go that day.
Exactly.
That year was a long year.
Oh,
right?
man, that would have been the longest year ever. You did 27. I can't imagine that year that that you're going to be released.
That's a long year. And the prison, the way it is guys that was getting high, they'll drop dirty and they'll take their out dates.
Yeah.
Or you get into too many fights, they're going to take your out date.
So that happens in any of these prisons. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that, though, Bobby. Yeah. I think that guys, the longer they're in, the more familiar that world becomes and the more unfamiliar freedom becomes. And I think that they self-sabotage themselves to stay in because I think
some of us don't, though, right? It's like me. I was at a maximum security prison for 26 years.
Yeah.
Then I go to a minimum prison where these guys like to play all day. It's a whole different mentality. Yeah. So they'll do something to them. It's just playing. But the max you come from, what dude did is enough to get him really hurt.
Yeah.
And then so if you got that same mentality, you can end up hurting somebody and lose you all day.
And
or you can be at the wrong place at the wrong time. One time,
definitely can be at the wrong place, the wrong time in prison.
in your cell though,
Yeah.
in your own cell. One of my cellies had was getting high. The guard smelled it, walked back, and then came back and shook down the cell. They actually found 100 postage stamps. Now I told you I write hundreds of letters.
Yeah.
Even when I got the outdate, I continued writing letters. To continue advocacy, right?
Right.
And they found 100 stamps, and they tested the stamps and said that they test positive for K2 residue.
Yeah.
And sent me and my cellie to the hole. Now, it's up to him to take the weight.
Yep.
But it ain't his. It's
Right.
my stamps.
Wow.
They knew he was getting high, but they could have took my day for that.
That would have been bad.
Yeah, but then when they tested at the real lab, then they said, okay, we made a mistake. It was the sticky stuff off the stamp. So let him out.
Wow.
But they could have kept me in prison, though. For
You could have lost it.
yeah, I could have been. That's how
Yeah.
easy it is, just
Yeah.
because your cellie smoking weed. But
Yeah.
that's
a lot to think about all on itself, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just what goes on in prison, though.
Tell me about, like, when you walk out that day and you got your stuff with
going back to that.
Yeah, because I can't imagine. I don't know who all was around there, but I know the judge was there. What was that like?
Oh man, going back to that day, like when I saw my name released, it was time. It was like, hurry up, man. That day it seemed that the booking process take all day, but finally it was 8:00 in the morning. I had been out there since 4 in the morning waiting, and 8:00 I go. I got a blue 3-piece suit. I told my family I want to walk out in the suit.
Yeah.
And the media asked me why, and I said because it represents the new business
Who
of life.
I am.
It's not a fashion statement. It's a new business of the new life I've been living.
Yeah.
And putting on that suit felt like $1 million.
I
I mean,
bet.
like, I can't believe I'm walking out of prison in a suit. And then, when I stepped out, the cameras flashed.
So you think it's weird too to put your clothes on in prison when everybody else has the other clothes on?
Yeah, and I'm shaking their hands with the suit on.
Yeah.
And I'm leaving them, and guys, they happy to see me go, but it's like,
Yeah.
man, like, you gone, man. I'm like, all right, bro. And I'm leaving, and I get out there in the parking lot, and, the judge is the first person that they, like, look, it's full circle. And then to whatever she was experiencing about me being in her, it's like, let her lift that burden off her.
Yeah.
And, she was the first person I embraced when I walked out of there. Then my lawyers was there. My family had on hoods, shirts that said Bobby is free. Yeah. Man, it was a beautiful experience. That day was sunny, cloudy. Man, it was beautiful.
Yeah, no, and it was covered. There's a lot of media coverage too. With you walking out of there.
Oh yeah, that was it was a blessing, man. I'm still dumbfounded about that day myself.
Well, wasn't that long ago? Let's talk about what's going on with you now, because I know that you're doing this nonprofit. I know you're getting you're doing a biography book. To tell me what's going on with you now, because I can't, and I kind of like to know what your world. I know one of the things you talked about is that you got to Taco Bell and ate it, and because of the motion and the movement. Can you explain that whole thing? You getting out and moving?
Oh yeah, that was the only downside. The day I got out, man, we left the prison, went to the capital of the state, and was talking about the school to prison pipeline and mass incarceration and how the system need to change that, et cetera. My lawyers was talking about that, and I was just talking about how grateful I was to be out, how I'm going to go out here and mentor youth and all the things I'm doing.
All the things you're doing now, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this is what I'm going to go do. And then, of course, the big meal, we're going to go, that's the celebration, let's go eat. So we go, they set up a table for 18, we order up everything in the restaurant, eat. And on the way soon, we got in the car. I got in my sister's car, and when she got about 30 miles down the road, I told her to pull over. It didn't come up then. I jumped back in the truck. We rolled off, and then the second time I felt it coming up, and then it actually did come up. So that was what the lawyers told her that she should have a plastic bag in the car because I was going to throw up.
Because of motion.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, I ain't going to throw up for what? But it's called motion sickness, that when you haven't been in the car that long and then you ride, you can have motion sickness, and I threw up the whole meal. And then when I went to my sister's house that night, like 400 people came over there. Cars lined up around the block, family members, friends. They came to see me, man. Like, he out. Like, he actually got out. Like, it don't happen that much.
It had to be wild, too, because a lot of people you were seeing were a lot older.
Oh, yeah, we all was. But, they say I look the same, but man, it was beautiful, man. Just seeing them people I hadn't seen in 20-something years.
What do you think, like, your biggest, what do you think was the biggest change getting out when you see the world out and moving and, like?
Oh, the biggest change was how everybody, the kids was taller than me.
Yeah.
Or kids I used to babysit had kids that was taller than me.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
Yeah, it was weird. And then things like Alexas, people talking to
Alexa, tell me this.
I'm like, man, what is that, man? And I'm like, hey, look, dude over there talking to himself. They like, man, dude on the phone. I'm like, where the phone at? He said, man, you don't see the earbuds in his ear. That's the phone.
Yeah.
So, man, I thought, dude,
just talking to himself.
But and then the water fountains,
water comes out.
Yeah, that's scary. Like the new technology, that's the most culture shocking thing out of the experience. And then when I go to the juveniles, though, I tell the kids, man, you can do anything you want to. Just put your mind to it. I go teach writing workshops at the juvenile, the single mother thing, the Dear Mama, the nonprofit organization. We do pop-ups in private neighborhoods throughout St. Louis twice a month. Just giving back, man, seeing the kids, the smiles on those kids' faces is priceless. And then when I get advice,
you think that's your passion now? Definitely. Is your journey, voice, experience, giving back to the kids and trying to help them through their own struggles?
Oh, definitely, man. To not see them go through this, man. Like, you down here, especially in Hogan Street, you've been convicted, but you got a chance to not go to prison like I did.
Mm-hmm.
Your whole life in front of you, man. Just, you can become great. You can do anything you put your mind to.
Mm-hmm.
I give them different examples of how Thomas Edison tried 10,000 times to make a light bulb.
Yeah.
Them type of books I had to read.
Do you know that light bulb still burns?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. His light bulb that he made still burns, but because they had to mass produce and make a business out of it, they had to make it where they burn out.
Yeah, man. The dude.
Guy knew what he's doing.
Them stories, though, right?
Yeah.
If a man tried that many times, that's them. So when they deny me in prison, I read about guys who walked from Africa to go to school over here.
Yeah.
Guys who left Costa Rica to become a United States citizen so they can become an astronaut. All these dreams people had, the World War II prisoners of war, how they had to endure concentration camps and being locked up like that all them years, not knowing what was going to happen. Then they finally make it home, and how they was starved and, all this stuff.
The book Unbroken, I don't know if you read that one, but they actually made a movie out of that one where those guys crashed in World War II, crashed in the ocean. Then they floated for 30 some odd days in the ocean, and then they floated up on the Japanese island, and they end up in a prison. And he gets released, and then he becomes an incredible person once he gets out of that prison camp. But I think that's what's really. I'm trying to find a better word than inspiring, because I don't want, that's almost too cliche. But your mindset, Bobby, is it. Everybody knows it would have been easy just to fetal position, give up, be the nastiest person in the world. I don't ever have the chance of ever getting out of here. I'm going to die in here. And man, you didn't do that.
No, man. Ironically, it was those type of books. The guys we talking about that was captured by the Japanese in the wars, and
you saw hope in that.
Yeah, and every tidbit I read gave me inspiration. Like, even though this Thomas Edison with this light bulb stuff, or Henry Ford with this motor don't correlate to prison, but it's the same hope. It's the same spirit of not giving up. When they said it can't be done, you do it, right?
Yeah.
So I applied all that stuff to my situation. Why go to college when you ain't ever getting out? I'm going to get a college degree. So I got my degrees in college while in prison through correspondence courses, right? Because I never felt I was not getting out. I was like, I'm getting out one day.
What did you study for college? Like, what was your what is your
I got my
emphasis?
associates in science and my bachelor's in sociology. I'm like 6 classes away from that.
Okay.
I just wanted knowledge, and people like, man, why would you waste 10? I didn't pay for college on my own. I wrote hundreds of letters to various colleges, organizations, churches, whoever, trying to get funding. It was just random citizens.
That helped you through?
Yeah, a random lady, she read my letter and said, look, I'm going to help you pay for it, her and her husband. and she paid $18,000 and paid for my degree.
She's still alive?
When she died while I was in prison.
Yeah.
And when she died, I had to start hundreds of letters again, and I found a professor on the East Coast. He paid $8,000 or $10,000 more out of his pocket to help me.
That's incredible.
But that when you got hunger, it's people in the world that help, man. But
yeah.
The hunger and passion is, okay, they say you can't go to college and prison because you don't have no money, but it's money in the world. Just keep trying to find it.
You got to keep just hitting that and fall through the doorway eventually. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying about perseverance and resilience, man. You can get through anything you're going through if you just look within and find your inner self. Go back to who your childhood essence was and think about your dreams and become that again and try to become something, because we all here for a purpose. If you here and you serve your purpose, you can have an impact, and your impact can touch people hundreds of years or even after you're gone. When I'm dead, Mind Diamonds, Mental Jewelry, Life Goes On Inside Prison, Dear Mom, those books will be read hundreds of years from now.
Yeah.
So that's my impact. So make an impact and become something. Don't make a worse impact, because you will never be remembered for that, because it's just a ripple in a wave. But if you do something monumental, then it'll always be here. So create something, discover yourself, and find yourself, and you can become your life purpose.
I love that. That's probably what you would tell your 16-year-old self.
Oh, yeah. I wrote an essay called What I Would Tell My Younger Self. It's in the back of this Generation Misunderstood book. I'm
going to put all that in the episode description so people will be able to find that, because I think this is the other thing, Bobby. One of the things I do on this show, at the end of the show, is I always ask people, what do you think is your message you want to impart to the people listening today through your life journey? What do you think that would be?
If you're in a prison cell, design your conviction to become great, man. You can be anything you want to be. As this book, my book covers a test. There's a lot of talent in prison. You got guys that's accountants in there, guys that's scientists, engineers. All these guys are in prison with these skill sets. Just all you got to do is apply yourself and become who you want to be, but stay away from negativity if possible, and don't give into it. And if you're on the street, living in a prison, because you don't have to be in prison to be inside prison, break free from that prison. Listen to my story and how I appreciate the simple things out, like looking outside right now, seeing the trees. It's beautiful, man. The world is beautiful. The sun is shining. Come out of your own prison, and you're not even in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Break out of that prison. And for the kids, don't be an illegal hustle. Become an entrepreneur, man. Take your skill set and get paid for it. You don't have to steal cars. You can go work for 2 months, get a pay stub, go get credit, and buy a car. Because when you're stealing cars, people insurance premiums going up. Mm-hmm. I got insurance for the first time in my life. You steal a lady car, she can't take her kids to school. Realize the impact that we have on victims. We create victims by our crimes, but most important, we victimize ourselves, because you're going to suffer in that cell. You can't be with a woman. You're around a man 24 hours. You're going to suffer in prison. So why would you victimize yourself? You hurt your mama. You can't be there for your kids. And then your family probably already is living in probably a middle class. They got to take money to come see you on visits. They got to spend money to send you mail. They got to spend money to send you food, stamps, envelopes. They got to pay for all that. So why would you victimize your family? If you commit a robbery that is going to net you $2,000 or $3,000, that's going to be gone in 2 months. You're going to spend that in prison in 2 or 3 months trying to get a TV, a radio, and utilities, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever you do, don't commit a crime where you can go do legal ways of getting money. Just use your mind, find out all these legal avenues to get money, and train yourself. Go get a trade, get a degree, develop yourself. If some of us are we sell drugs good. That means you're a good salesman. Mm-hmm. Become a salesman, sell product. Sell food, sell water, sell a commodity that people need. It's something people always need. You good at selling, sell the right thing. And if you go buy a Benz, then nobody can take it from you. It's yours. You legally earned it. So that's my message to people.
I love it, Bobby. And people check out, he's easy to find. Google Bobby Bostic, and you'll find a lot of things. You can find his books there. I'll have that in the episode description. all his books, but I can't wait to jump into his books. In fact, he just gave me one of them signed here. I'm excited to read that. Hey, for all those out here, every week, I love you guys share the show. If you get any piece of information out here, share it. If you think something was good, write a review on Apple. It really helps the show. It's easy to do. Hit the follow button on Apple. Hit the bell on Spotify. If you want to go check out more of my stuff, BrentCassidy.com. Leave me a message there. I love to go back and forth on that. And as I used to say when I was writing back and forth from Leavenworth, stay strong, and I'll do the same. Nightmare success in and out. Thank you, Bobby Bostic, for being here today. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you too.
Nightmare success in and out. We'll see you.